This is your Daily Dose with Dr. D. Here's Dr. Daniela Schreier.
We had a story this week about a guy at the Home Depot in West Covina who goes over into the saws, the department where they have hand saws, and grabs a saw and starts cutting his arms off. This is Rudy Lopez, Captain Rudy Lopez, spokesperson for the police.
At the point when I first saw him, I thought it was still just going to be a crime scene and a fatality. The officers had already found the man down, face down, blood all over the store, multiple aisles, and the whole store's in chaos.
Well, they had closed the store. They managed actually to reattach the guy's arms, just amazing surgery. But this then brought up the subject of why would somebody do this? You hear these stories periodically of somebody creating some horrible self-mutilation. And T-Ray told me about a study that she had read, I think in the New York Times years ago, to Scotland, about people who have this phenomenon where they see their limbs as their limbs are not supposed to be on their body, and they end up mutilated. It's just so bizarre. So we're turning to a woman who is an expert in this kind of stuff. She's a clinical and forensic psychologist. She has been heard many times on WLS in Chicago and CNN's True TV In Session. It's a pleasure to welcome to the show Dr. Daniela Schreier. Dr. Daniela, how are you?
I'm doing very well. How are you, Doug?
Good. Thank you for being with us. We appreciate it. So what can you tell us about this? I know, we have to speak in general terms because the specific case can always have its own derivations. But what would make somebody? It's such an unthinkable. People have heard about Stuck in the Woods. Kind of. They made that movie with James Franco where this guy had to cut his arm off to escape being trapped by rocks, and that makes people cringe. But the idea of walking into a Home Depot and just starting to saw your arms off.
Absolutely. It means the thing is, it sounds terrible, but you know what? People were expecting it's another massacre, right? That he would attack other people. And at least he only harmed himself. It sounds terrible, but it's kind of comforting. What I'm saying, and I'm not a person who is going first to that, we're dealing with mental illness here. And I had similar cases in my practice, as a matter of fact, especially while I was working in jail. And I would say, and I have never diagnosed or never assessed the person, that we potentially actually talk about a psychotic disorder, potentially a schizophrenia. And that means a person who really has hallucinations. And doc, that's just they hear voices potentially, right? Or they have delusions. That's the belief that other people don't share. For example, that they are persecuted, that they are followed, that they are ill-treated. And we know most often when people hear voices, command voices, and they tell them, for example, you're no good, or join me. That might be a mother speaking or father speaking, a person that's close to you, so it has more effect, or even sometimes God speaking to them, right? And tells them, you know what, no one wants you anyways, they're after you to get you, hurt yourself, to this and that. And let me explain to you. I had, for example, a client many, many vintages ago. What happened? He came in 3-4 times, and so I say, why you're back again? And so he explained his story. Like 5 years ago, he had actually stabbed himself more than 7 times, nearly died. Why would someone do that? And he told me, I'm hearing voices. So he heard multiple voices, but especially mom, dad, telling him, come to us. This is the way how you should join us. Number one, after a couple of years, he was actually hospitalized, jumped out of the 5th floor. Still didn't die. The last time I saw him, he was actually jumping in front of a train here in Chicago, and again, he did not die. So I asked him, what does that tell you? He just didn't know, and I told him, honey, it's not your time to go. But in summary, in my opinion, we're dealing with a serious mental illness here.
Now, Dr. Daniela, there's a phenomenon, and it's very common amongst younger, specifically young girls, but it can be young boys as well, of people who cut themselves. It's just called cutting, where they just take blades or sharp instruments and they just, abuse themselves in that fashion. Is that a minor or a smaller version of this, or is there a connection to this?
You know, I have never assessed the person, but what you're talking about is kind of a self-harming behavior, right, in the realm very often of a borderline personality disorder or borderline personality functioning. You're cutting yourself, especially on your arms or inner thighs, etc., to relieve tension. The intention would not be generally to kill yourself. It is just seeing blood flowing, right? It's a way to relieve your tension. You don't have other tools in your box to do that. So I, in this case, would not say that's an extension of the minor cutting that we see there, or sometimes even major cutting. I do think it is in a different realm, because if you look at just self-harming behavior, that would be in the realm of a personality disorder very often. But what I was talking about is a psychotic disorder, potentially schizophrenia or paranoid. Schizophrenia is a subtype, and that would be in a clinical disorder. It's a totally different category. When these youngsters set out to cut themselves, they're not hearing voices, Doc, telling you should join me, you're no good, They are really saying, okay, this is the way for me to relieve tension. So in my opinion, it's two different things. Got
it. You can follow Dr. Daniela on Twitter at Dr.Daniela. It's that simple. Hey, thanks so much for being with us. Appreciate it.
This has been your Daily Dose with Dr. D. For more, go to doctordaniela.com. That's doctordaniela.com.